when you look at it, you always want to take care of business. And really, half the games have been decided by 7 points or less. We've had their number since Katrina, 26-14 now. But they have the slight edge. We have 56 wins. They have 57. And then next year, I can tell you right now, I'm going to predict, I don't know, we're going to split. To say you're going to sweep, that's hard to do. But no, you don't want to get swept.
We swept the division champs.
Yeah, yes, and it just goes to show you, we should hold the organization's feet to the fire and, hey, we got to win the NFC South next year because, if you can somehow figure out to have a winning record or double-digit wins, you can end up being division champs. Then you get to host a playoff game. But look, it's the first time the Falcons have swept the Saints since 2016. So it's almost a decade. They finish on a 4-game winning streak. You cannot afford to lose the turnover battle. And if you look now, the Saints are -4 for the season. The Falcons are +5. And then when you look at it, you can't have a punt blocked. Those kind of things. I know one thing. I think we have to get better at the punter situation. They basically had a 1st down and a half better, so you're talking about flipping the field to hitting yardage. On net punting was 35.4. Theirs was 50.3. Now, that'd be interesting to see. We're going to have Dante Pettis. I think he did a formidable job, but to try and find another diamond in the rough like Rashid Shaheed being a game breaker in the return game, can you find that kind of player? Now, you look at the glass half full instead of half empty. We are going to play a 4th-place schedule next year, so that should benefit the Saints. When you look at it, we're going to have the 8th pick. So you try to look at some positives. At 6-11, that's where we finish. And I remember the draft. I said, it might be the same song and dance. When we won 5 games, yeah, we can win 5 or 6 games. That's what I said at the draft. Then after the training camp, I was like, I don't know. It might be more like, instead of 5 to 6, more like 4 to 5, with 6 being tops. Well, that's what happened. It's not guaranteed, but like, for instance, I picked one of my dark horses this year. Well, 2 of them. In the AFC, the Colts. Look at the first half of the season they had, then everybody got hurt, and they wasn't the same team.
You looked unbelievable pick in the first half.
And then the Seahawks. Look, they're the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
But then who I really thought would get there, just shows you the NFL. I said, I don't know, it finally be the Baltimore Ravens time. Kind of looking at, I don't know, Ravens, Packers, Super Bowl, or maybe the underappreciated Yankees from up north, Lions, Bills, Super Bowl. We got to see how it's going to play out. But it just goes to show you how tough it is. Now, and I thought I predicted this, and we had an opportunity to go 4-2. We would go 3-3 in the division. I can tell you right now, that's the bottom of us going 3-3 in the division. You need to be 4-2, if not 5-1. It's hard to say you can be 6-0. But I'd say right now, for sure we're going to be 3-3. But we need to be like 4-2 in the division. And ultimately, if you're 5-1, I think because of the 4th-place schedule, we have a great chance to win the NFC South. Now, the one thing that's puzzling, because it's a game of inches, you hear that cliche, that when you have opportunities to make field goals, you have to make it. And you might say, well, Bobby, no, we got to get touchdowns. But when the game's close, you got to make those field goals. When you look how the season has unfolded, okay, 40-plus yard field goals. You think like today's kicker, come on, you got to make that. While our opponents, you're never going to be 100%. You want to be 100%. They were 9 of 11. We were 50%, 5 of 10 from 40-plus yard field goals. Now, I just count the points there. We're 5 of 10. They're 9-11. Then you look at 50-plus yard field goals. You know what our opponents were? 10 for 10. If it was 50-plus, they didn't miss a kick. 10 for 10, we were 7 of 12. Man, that's a lot of points you're leaving out there. And, again, when you look at, the Saints did cover. Charlie, I'm sorry, but they did cover. When you look, 3.5 backdoor cover, all that kind of stuff doesn't mean anything, but it just shows you how close it is and how Las Vegas, they kind of know what they're doing, to break it down. I thought this is very encouraging. I didn't think this happened before the game. We averaged 4.2 yards a carry. Tyler Shuck runs do count. and they averaged 2 yards a carry. I would not have thought that we'd have done that against the likes of the 1-2 punch with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. No, Bijan Robinson averaged 2.2, Algier 2.3. No, we stopped them. They did not run the ball. Bijan Robinson had 43 total yards from scrimmage. Now, in November against us, he had rushed for 70 yards. That was his lowest total in the last 8 games. So he ain't done jack against us. As great as Bijan Robinson is, we are a Bijan killer.
Love seeing that.
Yeah, and that's something because he ain't going nowhere. He's going to be around. Like, for instance, in the 5 previous matchups, we've done it. It's not just a small sample size. 5 previous matchups, in 2 games, he had 28 yards rushing against the Saints. So now he had 33. So you look at, now, one of those 28-yard rushing games, he had 103 yards receiving. Today he had 10 yards receiving on 3 receptions. So, no, that game plan, you got to give Brandon Staley and the defense a lot of credit. Carl Granderson was an animal out there. And that bodes well because he's under contract, and what we paying him, bang for your buck. You look at Chase Young. Chase Young, 6 total tackles, a sack and a half, 2 quarterback carries, 2 tackles for loss, pass defended. So now he's had 10 sacks in the season, and he missed 5 games. Again, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I guess I am. I told you he was going to have double-digit sacks. What I saw in training camp,
despite missing 5 games.
yes, that we were struggling to block him in practice. You know, it was good practice for like Banks, like, man, or whoever was going against him. But then when I saw him do against the Rams, I was like, no, he's going to have, I mean, not just get to 10, but have like around 12. I'm not saying like Myles Garrett and have 22, 23, but about 12 plus if he's available the whole season. So Chase Young, outstanding. Carl Granderson, Cam Jordan, drinking in the Falcons of Ute. Now, he came into the game, 9.5 sacks. He has 10.5 for the season. 2 quarterback carries, 2 tackles for a loss. So a lot of guys that we're familiar with really stepping up. Double D had ended up being 3rd in tackles, with 6. When you look at all that. Now, I don't know. It's frustrating because you always want to beat your rival. But I think if we can look at it in the big picture, it's not necessarily going to be a bad thing. Because I think we can build upon these certain things that we have accomplished this season. I mean, I look on offense. I agree with Deuce and Hoss. I was like, I mean, who's playing? It's like a preseason roster on offense. Not talking about the defense. On offense, who we had out there would be like guys trying to make the team, and it might be your first or your second preseason game. And I think that affected, even though we have gotten a little better, but not good enough on 3rd down. We were 5 of 6, 31%. On the season, our defense is outstanding. They were only able to be 4 of 14, 29%, which is as good as it gets. And when you look at it during the regular season, so that's not just something we did, this game, where we were outstanding on 3rd down defense. No, we've been outstanding on 3rd down defense, throughout the season. For instance, we were like the 3rd best 3rd down defense in the whole NFL the whole season, and we were at 34.7. Well, I think today we were 29%. And I'm talking about, who we hanging with? The Seahawks and the Texans. 3rd down defense. Aren't those 2 teams elite? Yeah. Right. So I think Brandon Staley and the whole defensive effort, what we did on 3rd down, was simply outstanding. Our red zone defense was outstanding. They were only 1 of 3, 33%. That wasn't the case the first time we played them here. They were successful in the red zone and we weren't. Well, today, you want to be 100%, but at least we were 67%. That's winning football, 2 of 3 in the red zone when all said and done. Again, now back-to-back games, we've averaged more per carry than the opponent. Today we were 4.2, like I said, in the Falcons, 2 yards per attempt. Not 2.2 or 3.2, no, 2. And you're talking about Bijan Robinson. When you look at the total yards from scrimmage, and what Bijan Robinson was, just what he was accomplishing and doing this season. I was worried. I know you have to be concerned. Okay, well, how are we going to, after that Rams game, what he did, he ran for 195 yards, and the Rams might represent the NFC in the Super Bowl.
Breaking tackles, slippery.
Yes, and if you look at it, I mean, he had 2,000, not 1,000, 2,255 total yards from scrimmage and 1,445 yards rushing. Not against the Saints. He didn't do that against the Saints. And that's why he's not going to brag to his grandkids, oh, man, I kicked the Saints' ass. No, it's just been the opposite. Now, he's going to play a number of years. He might eventually, but you talk about 5-6 games sample size. No, he has not done anything against the Saints. And I'm a Bijan Robinson fan. I'm thinking, like, boy, if we can get that kind of guy at running back with Tyler Shuck, you know, we always talk about Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame, maybe with that 8th draft pick, to be that back to complement Tyler Shuck. You know, I don't think necessarily anyone's against that. But you cannot afford to do this where, hopefully we learn from this. Remember when we finally won a game, we beat the Giants, we had 5 straight takeaways in a row, we're like +5. Well, you know, we easing our way back. Then we started minus. We're a -3, now we're -4 for the season. And I'm not even counting the block punt. That's like a turnover to me. But it's not. So you can see different areas that we have to get better. And I don't know what we could do about this. And I'm going to ask him tomorrow night on the coaches show. I mean, how do we get off to a faster start? You might say, well, Bob, they just have to get off to a faster start. And it's about execution. But I don't know. It's the whole season. The season's over.
That was a constant.
Yeah, that is a constant. So, I mean, what do we truly do to get better in that regard? Because we end up getting outscored more than 4-1. Because remember, it's 3-1. Then it's 4-1. We've been outscored 122-29. So we always chasing points. So we lose it, what, this 3-0 or 7-0.
Who's a first-half specialist we could hire to bring in? I don't know.
Yeah, execution, whatever it might be. But no, and it's not, and it's been the same song and dance. So I know they're going to address that because I'll look in the category. Just getting off to a fast start can make a difference. Okay, let's say you win 6 games and you play in 17 games. So what if you get a faster start maybe in 4 or 5 games? You're hovering around 9 or 10 wins? So all of that comes into play as far as when you want to play winning football. But again, it's frustrating because it is your division rival. But I don't know. I'd rather Carolina be going to the playoffs. And you might say, I don't like none of them. I don't like Carolina, Tampa Bay, or the Saints. But, you know, we had won the division 4 years in a row. And Tampa Bay has won the last 4 seasons. They were trying to make it 5. Not so fast. Didn't get it done. And if you look at Carolina,
Baker can go back to hating us.
Yeah, exactly. And to show you how hard it is, so you look at Carolina, how this is unfamiliar territory. The last time they won the NFC South, they were 15-1. That was their Super Bowl appearance 10 years ago. You remember that guy, Cam Newton? That was the first division crowns winning today since Ron Rivera and Cam Newton. Now, since then, Carolina's gone through 3 coaching changes, started 10 different quarterbacks since their wild card berth in 2017. But I'm talking about winning the NFC South and ultimately went to the Super Bowl, but they lost. They didn't end up winning. But so if you look at it, I mean, who do you want to really help? And I think that does matter. I think playing a 4th place schedule, then a 2nd place schedule, whatever how it might have unfolded. So I'm going to look at this as a positive going forward. I thought we had a great chance to win 5 in a row. I think I'm not trying to make an excuse, but if I think in the latter part of that game, if Chris Olave is available, like the weapons, I think we have a better opportunity. I think Shuck made the best of it. I still think Shuck did enough to be Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think if you truly be objective, Ted McMillan, what they going to say? Oh, he's a 1,000-yard receiver. Well, hell, they play 17 games.
Do you think the bias of the Panthers being in the playoffs?
Oh, without a doubt. Oh, that's not going to hurt. That's going to help a lot, probably.
Well, I mean Shuck. Hurt Shuck's
oh, yeah, it's going to hurt Shuck. Yeah. But to me, that should not, make a difference. That the one thing, even look at Chris Olave and the kind of season that he had. Everybody say, oh, Bobby, look, he's done it again. He has another, 1,000 yards. I'm not so impressed with that. You know what I'm impressed with? Two things. 9 touchdown catches and 100 receptions. And he wanted to play a complete season. Now, obviously, you got a blood clot in your lung. You can't play. But I think the combination of Shuck and Chris Olave, that's going to go a long way.
Yeah, they just started cooking.
Yeah, because you look in the past 2 games and him not being available today, he had recorded 148 and 119 yards receiving with 3 touchdowns. And so when you look at it, and not playing the last game, but 100 catches, like I said, I don't look at the 1,163 yards. You play 17 games. But the 100 catches and the 9 touchdowns, to me, that's impressive. And Chris Olave can tell you that he even thinks he could be better. Look at it. Like, you're not going to ever be perfect, but if you're going to be like that stud and you want to be in the likes and you talk like Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, whatever, tell Justin Jefferson the quarterback don't make a difference. Because you look this year with the Vikings. I know the fantasy people are all ticked off, right? No. So I think the combination, Chris Olave can make Shuck better and Shuck can make Chris Olave better. So I'm really encouraged by that. Now, as far as guys we're familiar with, who's going to come back? And I brought this up to Deuce in the pregame. Okay, 4 guys. I don't know how you cannot bring back DeMario Davis and Cam Jordan based on their production. I'll put a young guy. Put a young guy with the young guy can't beat him out. And now a contract comes into play dealing with the salary cap. But I would say Taysom Hill's playing hard, but he definitely lost a step with his knee. And then looking at Alvin Kamara. I love Alvin Kamara.
I miss Alvin.
He was like the poor man to me, Christian McCaffrey, kind of at times. But it shows you a great defense. What did Christian McCaffrey do against the Seahawks? Nothing. Now, I was never encouraged with the 49ers because I think the injuries was their defense. That's not a 49ers defense, and that shows you if the Seahawks have a Super Bowl winning defense. Now, I don't know what they could do offensively because look how many points the Bears scored against the 49ers, and the Seahawks couldn't score. So that'll be interesting. No, it's wide open. I think the playoffs are wide open to say, oh, they're going to win for sure, this team, that. I mean, I told you this in the pregame, and if you're a Saints fan or a small market fan, the NFL might not want this. I would love to see the Seahawks and the Jaguars. Jacksonville and Seattle. Well, Bobby, Seattle's not like Jacksonville, New Orleans, smaller city. Yeah, but it's like in a different country. Who pays attention to Seattle? That's like, okay, the Seattle Mariners in the World Series, look when they were competing against the Blue Jays. What? That's like 2 teams that are foreigners. No one pay attention to the Mariners, and the Seahawks are so far away. But I think that's the teams I would cheer for because, we don't play them enough, and how can you really hate on them? But looking at Alvin before we go to a break, he injured his knee, ironically, against Atlanta in November. And his 2025 season was the worst of his career. He played in a career-low 11 games, failed to crack 1,000 yards from scrimmage. And I say failed to crack 1,000 yards for scrimmage. I just read you with John Robinson has 2,255 yards from scrimmage. And for the first time in his 9 NFL seasons, he finished with 657 total yards. So when you get old, you get old. I'm not saying Alvin doesn't have nothing left in the tank, but I think that's why in the draft is so important if we would get that security blanket and a running back like Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame.